Good evening and welcome to The Truth Behind the Truth. Thank you guys for tuning in this evening. Hey, we love you for taking the time out on your Saturday evening to be with us on a normal basis. We love it. We love it. We love it. We love it. I want to say hey to our West Coast family, our Central Time family, and our East Coast family. We love it. We love it. Want to remind you guys real quick, definitely to go to our YouTube page and subscribe. We need to get you guys subscribing, okay? We'll see you there, but we need to get you to click on that button. Click on that thumb. Give us a thumbs up. We need you to do that for us. Our Facebook family, hey, always dependable right there with us. And, of course, our Instagram family as well, tuning in as they get the notification on board. So we love that. Hopefully soon we'll be able to start broadcasting live as well on Instagram when we get the connected pieces together with that as well. Want to say hey to the UK family as well. All right. So everybody, you are welcome and being a part of The Truth Behind the Truth. We are continuing our series on Men Have Voices Too, which we'll be digging into that with our special guests once again, Mr. Tyler Tate and Mr. Ian Stiles. Actor Ian Stiles will be with us tonight on the show. All right, fellas. Hey, here we are. The usual gang, the posse. All right. Mr. Harold LaFleur.
We're here and accounted for.
Yes, sir. Mr. Farnell.
Hey, what's happening? Hello to my mate Capon in the UK.
Moscow.
Yes.
Because I'm chocolatey goodness, baby.
Exactly. How was your week?
Good. It was a good week. It was like a lot of us are still doing the whole, making peace with Mary Wilson passing. A lot of the band. Absolutely. We had a great Zoom call the other day, just like, you know what? Let's all get on Zoom and say hey and love on each other a little bit. Okay. Just was like it was great. But been a great week. Been doing my fitness thing.
All right. Oh yeah, I see them guns. I see those
guns.
Show.
You see the gun show?
Go ahead.
And always, I look forward to Saturdays to get to spend some time with you brothers.
Yes. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. Harold, I know you had a good week because I was teasing you earlier. Harold been messing with that fruit. I mean, that vegetable this week. If y'all want a show with vegetables, okay, y'all need to go to Mr. Harold LaFleur's Instagram page because he can make you look.
I'm trying to get folks to fall in love with fruits and vegetables.
I see, but you're doing a good job. Because I'm gonna tell you, I haven't looked at celery the same since. I'm telling you, I was like, whoa, celery, baby, celery.
You got to make it interesting. You got to try to make it sexy.
I'm telling
you, you got to try to make it sexy.
I love this little bit of celery. Okay, yeah. Love it. Well, outside of that, how's your week been, brother?
It's been good. I've been, incorporating yoga and meditation again this week. Okay. I've been off balance. I found myself just kind of being off balance this week. Haven't been getting enough sleep. And I was like, you know what? I just need to center myself. So going back to some practices that I know typically work for me. So just doing more prayer and meditation,
Gotcha. Well, maybe you could speak on that a little bit more since again, the shows are dedicated to, to men, and maybe advise them and the importance of that, and having those disciplines, because that can also help correct all of the other issues that they have going on, in their life as well, has some validity to it. So anyway, without further ado, let's bring our guests in. Okay. And get this party started.
Let's get it started.
All right, we want to bring to the show once again Mr. Tyler Tate and my good brother and our good friend of the show, actor extraordinaire, Mr. Ian Stiles. Hey! Woo-hoo! Yeah.
Red cup.
Chug.
What's going on? You gotta let me know when you're cutting in. You gotta let me know.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
So you can hide your numbing juice.
After seeing Harold Cohn's show with fruits, I have to start drinking again.
Is that what you're drinking? You drinking some celery juice, Ian? Is that celery juice in that red cup?
Like JB said, I would never look at celery again the way I used to look at it. Never again.
Every time I go in the store from now on, go in the celery section, man, I'm just gonna get goose pimples. Start breaking out the sweat. All right, I love it.
Whatever y'all.
I know you have to look at it, but anyway, Tyler, how was your week, brother?
It was great. I'm in grad school, y'all. So every week is pretty much going to be the same. Surviving graduate school. Unless something exciting happens to happen, I can maybe interject something unique. Every week is turning in these assignments and doing the best I can.
Yes. Good deal for that. Yeah. But say you're gonna make you're on top of the game, so that's all right. You're gonna make it, man.
Thank you. I appreciate
it. And if right now you got what four fellas that you can always call to get encouragement. You know what I'm saying? If it's a down day, whatever, reach out. If you need the encouragement, reach out. Actors. And everybody on here is an actor.
Yeah. Oh wow!
That's so I mean, Harold's an actor too. Harold just don't do it like he used to.
Thank y'all for including me, but I was pretending to be an actor. I was pretending. I wouldn't. I was pretending.
He is actually good. He just that wasn't his pursuit right now. But Harold's good. but yeah, seriously, so if you are in a difficult spot or whatever the case, hey, reach out. That's what this show's about. This is what we're trying to build through this series of conversations. Because a lot of times as men, we keep things so internal, and not have that platform to be able to release ourselves or whatever we're going through. I mean, Ian calls me from time to time, and we have our private conversations. And, and one day he called me, "You had just what I needed to hear." So it's really important to have that conversation, at the end of the day, and know that you're there for one another, How was your week, brother? I'm sorry.
For me?
Yes, sir.
Well, Trump is gone, so every week, I start off with that. Every week is a good week,
Okay.
It's not that bad, we taking it day by day. Of course, about the situation with my mother. But, I have faith, trust in God. So, I know that she's going to be well. So it's not a bad week. I mean, we're alive. We're on this side of the world. So that's a good thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so true. Just real quick before we get into it tonight, let's just take a moment and send, vibes to our brother Ian because of the situation his mom's going through. So just take a moment to see your thoughts and send healing vibes to her, and then encourage her within the time of healing. Okay, so let's put that in our mind. Let's just take a minute to do that real quick, and then we'll go ahead and continue the show.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
All right. So let's dig in. All right. What we will do tonight, and we will bring up that section after we go to commercial break, then we'll pick it up from there, and we'll start talking about that. Tonight, guys, we're going to focus some more on, for our audience, toxic masculinity. So we have a wonderful segment that we're going to show with Tyler after we come from commercial break, and we'll dig into that. So, but in general, cuts before we go to break. So when you got where is everybody's head around toxic masculinity, in its inception? What do you feel that we can, as this group, start changing that narrative? I mean, anybody can take it from there.
Well, to change the narrative, we first have to be able to accept ourselves. Growing up in the South, it was a big thing about masculinity. You have to be a certain way. You have to act a certain way in order to be considered a man. But we know that that's stereotypical, old traditional ways that doesn't really fits in with society, of who a man is. I think that sometimes we overlook individuals and we look into the terminology for masculinity versus realizing that it's about a mindset. One who's able to take on responsibility, able to step up to the plate, able to, not be consumed by the world traditional ways and be conformed by a different way, a different mindset, which is this new society. And I think that sometimes we look at it and feel like, okay, you can't cry. A man can't cry. That's some BS. Or a man shouldn't, should try to figure things out. We all have problems. We all have situations. There's going to be times you're going to cry. There's going to be times you can't figure it out. Like you say, we are a family. And there's times where I need you in order for me to feel strong or to pick me up. So, no, I don't think that, feeling less than will make you a man.
Right. Gotcha. Were you watching the Pernell?
Oh, I was just kind of, I was going to be at church.
One of the things that I like to bring up is that, and it just came to mind about the Jonathan, David and Jonathan, relationship in Scripture. Okay, which was such a very powerful, unique thing. Many people interpret it differently in different aspects. They say that it was the same gender affair that they had. Some biblical scholars say that. Whatever. But that's really not the point. The point is that the love that they had for one another was likened unto a woman, as the Scripture says. So how do we develop that kind of trust in one another? You see what I'm saying? Because I think that love comes after the trust is involved. Where is this issue that we can't trust somebody, or we approach somebody and they have to have that mean look and and don't speak to me or don't say all of that? How can we break that narrative in terms of approaching this situation?
I think in that there needs to be some reimagining what it means to engage with other men, because there is this very violent reinforcement of how men should interact with each other, which sometimes is very stoic, very dry, small talk, sports talk sort of thing. So anything that sort of falls out of that category of communication falls into perhaps the way that men and women are then supposed to.
Right.
So close, intimate, emotional connection. And there's something about our culture right now that immediately connects intimacy and closeness to romance. And I don't think that there's this conversation around closeness and intimacy with men that has absolutely nothing to do with women, but has everything to do with emotional intelligence.
Right. Gotcha.
Jimmy, I also think that if you think about most of us who are more mature now these days, we grew up in an environment whereas our fathers didn't show us the love, on that level, if you would say. They taught us to be hard and to be stern, and to get out of that, and in order to be able to accept the reality that that like you say in the Scripture, their love was strong, just the strongest love for a woman.
Right.
And we can love one another without having to feel like we are being less than.
Exactly. I think, and go ahead, Harold. Okay.
No, one of the things when I think about toxic masculinity, I also think about the impact it has on our health. When you look at the lifespan of Black men, I mean, we are at the bottom, in terms of lifespan. I think a lot of that has to do with the toxicity of what we don't let out. We hold all this stuff in, all this fear, anger, stress, we hold that all in, and what that does to our body and how that affects us. And when we're not taking care of ourselves, if you don't have a good relationship with yourself, it's difficult to have a good relationship with anybody else. And I think, it really starts there.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Go ahead.
But you know what? Are we gonna have this Black History moment?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know what? And I'm gonna add this in, because this was when I think of toxic masculinity, and we're gonna still discuss Michael Jackson, but in the media when he was alive, I used to hear how girlish he was and how, he looked kind of, his voice was too soft. And, after he had passed, you still have people still questioning, certain aspects of his life. How many women did he date and all this stuff? And I be thinking to myself, that is a form of toxic masculinity right there in the world. Because why did it even matter to what he was doing, why his voice was so soft, the way he dressed, Men don't dress, men don't move, men don't talk, men don't don't. It's just that type of scenario that is pushed in our media. Sometimes with these, with the mainstream celebrity, or sometimes within the community that you come from, they put so much a high expectation, like he said about the fact that you have to be initiated. Is that the right word? Initiated? Indoctrinated. Thank you. Y'all still waking up from this little sleep, so y'all bear with me. My words are going everywhere. But the fact is that we look at masculinity as a certain look. It has to be a certain look, a certain way, so we can hold deal what masculinity is, and sometimes it varies.
Right.
Let me give you. And Prince wasn't, he didn't dress up like a man. He was, most of this situation that is just all media based,
right?
Mainstream media based. Sometimes the movies that we watch,
right? Exactly.
And the news, it's just crazy. And even in the political sense, if you think about it, you think about people like Trump. People think Trump was more masculine than Obama, but Obama shed tears, where Trump didn't shed tears. And he didn't have no feeling of humanity. But the fact is that is to me a form of masculinity within within what we see on television, what we sometimes hear in our music. It really puts a stain on the male, situation that we cannot be vulnerable, we cannot cry, we cannot even indulge in conversations like this without feeling some type of way about it. We don't need to go into gay stuff. We don't need to go into, it's just that type of situation is always pushed. So that, that's my, that's how I feel about it. It's just pushed out like that. Yeah,
I think what Harold said was key. We have to deprogram ourselves. I don't think that we will get there in our lifetime, but if you can see, the generation has accepted this, and they will continue to trend on. I'll be dead in my grave and probably waiting on the resurrection before we see this. But once men get to the point where they feel comfortable with themselves,
yes.
realize that in order to be a man, you have to show feelings. That in order to be a human being, is feelings. That is part of the natural reaction. Feelings. You have to cry sometime. You have to ask for help. You have to sometimes get on your knees and this, beg. That doesn't mean that you're less than. It just means that you're aware that you are in need of help. Right. And that's what it's a, when you realize that you're in need of help and be able to step out and say, you know what? I'm asking for help. I need you. The key for a true man. It's not about, the sexuality part or you need to be hard, because that's that false narrative that we give our kids today. And until we change, we're going to be going around in one big circle.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Do you have a point, partner?
Well, no, just listening to some of this, it reminds me of what Cleo Minogue used to always call it, that John Wayne syndrome. That is a uniquely American way of thinking of masculinity. Right. That is this whole thing. I mean, it's fun in movies like what was it with Predator, where Jesse the Body Ventura was like, "You're bleeding. Right. I ain't got time to bleed." I mean, it's like, ooh. Right. I mean, it's this great tough guy thing in the movies. Right. In real life, it's just like, dude, you about to bleed to death. But it is that thing, and it is a way of how men relate to women. That is really the toxic part, where there's this whole thing about dominate you, and I have to be the ruler and the end all be all, and what I say goes, and don't question me, woman. Like that was 1950. Right. We have grown a lot of things, and then a lot of it, you mentioned biblical scripture. A lot of it goes back to that whole thing about Adam coming, Eve coming from Adam's rib, which is also subject to interpretation. Some people interpret that Eve was created from Adam's side, to rule alongside him, not necessarily be protected by him, but to partner with him through life. And so what we see in all of nature, it takes both male and female to create life, to bring life, and to take that life and nurture it to adulthood.
Right.
So when you have one side of that is totally disregarding and disrespectful of the other side of what makes life happen,
Right.
we have imbalance and this toxicity that happens, whereas opposed to looking at this woman as my partner, my mate, my what was the word? Is Eve was supposed to be Adam's helpmate, not his servant, not his subject, but to through life and to keep him basically keep him company.
Exactly.
Not just to be ruled over. So as we start getting those thoughts out of our head, and I'm seeing some changes going on that I think this generation and the children that they are raising are now starting to kick some of those old notions of what being a man is all about, that we're seeing more and more fathers. I mentioned it last week. We're seeing more and more fathers braiding their daughter's hair, or long, if their daughter is playing dolls, well, I'm gonna grab this Barbie doll with my daughter and I'm gonna play along with her.
Absolutely.
So her father is right here.
Absolutely.
Whether it's a cheerleading routine, you got a dance routine, daddy's gonna dance around with you, baby, to make sure you need to do. That's what being a man is. Not this so hard, no tears ever fall from my eyes nonsense.
Right, exactly. I wanted to touch on really one point I think this is really encouraging for all men, but just typically on the sense that you just mentioned, and you mentioned Adam and Eve. One of the powerful things that we really miss about that is that Eve was created from his rib, or portion of him that created her. Here's the great part about that is that men still are all of that he gave to her. We were that all along. So we were already emotional. We were already giving. We were already all those other type of things. We just shared it with someone else. So rightfully giving our own place is that men are the forefront of everything. You see what I'm saying? Because it all comes through us, at the end of the day. Love and ministers come through us. Everything comes through us. It was so much of us that we had enough to give away. You see what I'm saying? It was so much of us available that we had enough to give away and still be able to be in the position of the continuously giving. The part you give to create someone else, but at the end of the day, still out of you came creation. What still happens out of us comes creation, at the end of the day, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I thought about that. Most people, I think if you get into the Adam and Eve story, because they always look at, whatever sin came from Adam, blah, 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 blah. We're not getting into the Bible about that, but, and in and of itself, they rob the man from his position. You're saying, and then you want to put the man on blast and saying it was all the man's fault and da da da.
That's what I was about to say. At one point. They blame the woman, but they still blame Adam.
Blame Adam for the whole thing. And I mean, I have a great biblical story, but this is not the point where we're talking about that. but it's just the idea of how what we have seen and what has been said about men, throughout history. And I thank goodness the universe is sending a different message to this younger crowd, as you said, Parnell, and looking at being better fathers, looking at better relationships to their brother, their brothers, and hey, bro, giving each other a hug and whatever the case may be. Because, guys, there was a time that you couldn't even hug a guy. At the end of the day. But now hug is more, if you don't hug me now, it's something wrong, which is good. You know what I'm saying?
If you have if a certain community did, some certain communities kiss in the mouth and hug each other. Right. I mean, if you look at The Godfather, if you look at certain, Indian cultures, it's Muslim and some Muslim cultures too, depending on which sector it is, they embrace and certain that type of situation.
Speaking of that, let me tell you, when I went to Korea, one of the weirdest thing it shocked me just by being there. The Korean guys, what they accustomed to is, let's say if I'm sitting down in this chair, and JB, you coming in and there's no seat, you sit in my lap, you wrap your arm around my back, and you have a conversation with everyone. That is normal in their society. Something that you said, JB, and Parnell said, that it's what we see.
Right.
Hollywood has given this narrative. Hollywood actors, the TV shows, rappers give this narrative that in order to be hard, you have to punch a bitch in the head and all this other stuff that we this on TV, you got to be strong. Like you were saying, Parnell was getting cut, or that is a cut. But if you don't, you bleed to death. And that's the thing that is influencing our society, the younger generation today. and they feel like they have to fit that narrative in order to be a man.
Right.
Hey, man is not whole because we have a rib missing in the same narrative that you guys were saying about Adam and Eve.
Right.
But when we find a soulmate, by one missing rib, we become a whole being.
Right.
So, being said, if that female is part of us, we got to have those feminine characteristics as well.
Absolutely. And in order to have that kind of conversation, I totally agree. Guys, we can go ahead and do a quick break, and then we're going to come back with Tyler's piece on continuation in masculinity. In our Black History Moment, we'll say that toward the end. We're going to be talking about Michael Jackson, because I don't want to change the flow where we are right now. We're going to have so we're going to go to a quick break, and we'll be back with Tyler's piece. Okay?
Awesome.
Hey guys, welcome back. I apologize for the little technical difficulty there running our commercial set on that, but that's okay. Hey, maybe we weren't supposed to have a commercial tonight. That could have been it too. Another way to look at it.
Got something to eat,
so we're gonna go ahead and dig into Tyler's piece. If our producer is oh my God. All right, as I said, guys, you apologize. Just a little bit connection issues this night. So, guys, just hang in there with us. We are getting through it. All right, we're still here.
Yep. Darn technology.
But anyway, until the video comes up and then ready for that particular point. So I think Ian, you left with a very good point. I want to just pick up in this kind of a factor.
Mm-hmm.
Can everybody be heard? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. JB, I wanted to make a point in terms of toxic masculinity and how it showed up in my life. So I grew up, not being told not to ask for help, holding your feelings and emotions. And when I started my first business, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. And so
Ian, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. We're still missing Parnell, but okay. Well, go ahead, Harold.
So I was taught to ask for help meant that you were weak.
Because it's still going in and out.
Okay.
Still going.
So can you hear me?
We can hear you. I think it's this connection.
Okay. So
Okay,
I was
we're still here,
taught,
guys. Audience, we apologize for the connection issues tonight. Just Wi-Fi issues to mess with.
Uh-oh. Did I hear you, Harold?
okay. So I was taught like to ask for help, to show emotion. That was all. That meant you were weak, and I carried that. And so when I started my first business, it was really, really tough. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was too afraid to. I wouldn't ask for help, because to me, asking for help or telling folks that I was scared, that I didn't know what I was doing, that meant I was weak. And so I ended up losing everything. I ended up filing bankruptcy, lost my house, and all the while I kept this a secret. I was losing everything. And the interesting thing about that, after I went through that whole experience and I gained the courage to talk about it, I found out most of my friends had gone through similar experience, but none of us was talking about it. We were holding all that in. And I think about what a missed opportunity of just support and encouragement to let, because when I was going through it, I was at the point of, and when I think about it now, I just think it seems so crazy, but I was like suicidal. I was so embarrassed by, my failure, and I thought I was the only one that had gone through this. And then when I had the courage to open up, just found out other folks had gone through that. And I think that when you talk about toxic masculinity, that's how it shows up sometimes. We hold in stuff and we try to do things on our own because we think to ask for help or support that somehow means that we are weak. But no, to ask for help means, that's going to help me stay strong, to ask for support and ask for, assistance and an instruction manual. How did you do it? How did you get through? That's going to help me stay strong. It doesn't make me weak.
Well, when you fail, since we bring this Bible narrative in, if you think about it, when a man fails and he gets back up, that's the key part that successful at what you're doing is that you get up. You don't sit there and wallow in your misery or whatever situation you're in. You get back up, and that's the thing that we teach young men, women, black, white, I don't care what color, that if you fall, you get back up. You don't just stay there. Now, I like Tyler. He's the youngest of all of us on here. And Tyler, what made you?
No, he ain't. I'm the youngest.
What made you step out to go to school? You said this is your grad school. You're going to grad school, am I correct?
Yeah.
What made you step out on faith? Tell me a little bit about your story. What made you get to this point where you decided to pursue your dreams and get your degree?
Yeah, so my family, my background in education is just very extensive because everyone in my family, as far as my
continue the conversation. We're there. Okay.
With my grandparents and my parents, everyone is in the education, school teachers, counselors. My grandparents were both retired school teachers. So education, I always knew was sort of the way for me and my sister. I'm in the arts, so it was definitely going to be a unique experience. I didn't know whether I wanted to just go in there professionally or whether there was a place for me in the academic realm in acting. But because I was younger and when I was 17, I graduated high school at 17, and I still didn't really have a say-so with a lot of things. My parents basically told me that I would be going to get some acting training in a collegiate setting, which at the time I was really upset about because, I didn't really have the space to make that decision for myself. But in hindsight, I'm really glad they did that because that's where I had that's where I met Dylan. I had some really great experiences in that setting and got some really good training. And I kind of learned how to value education the same way men oftentimes learn their idea of masculinity. I saw it all around was a standard of sorts. And so once I became an adult and started to make my own mistakes, even not in academic settings, I started a very academic way of doing things, which is why I do stuff like make case studies and investigations and post them on YouTube. So that's a little bit about how I got to where I am.
That's good.
Hey, Tyler, when you did the documentary, was there one thing that surprised you most that you discovered as you were examining toxic masculinity?
Absolutely. The one thing that surprised me most is the ways that toxic masculinity is actually very, for Black men, it's very much so rooted in racism. Because a lot of what Black men are doing to push against the idea of being feminine or less like is like very much so rooted in the demasculinization of Black men in the Jim Crow era and in slavery. That is the core of it. That is the root of it. I mean, we used to, and I have this in the investigation, the pictures of the Black men marching with signs that say, "I am a man." A lot of the booking up against that we've done over time is to fight against these very racist ideas that because men are a certain color, they're less men. And so I was very surprised to find that a lot of the masculine ideas that we have are forms of resistance that we've built to fight against this narrative that we are less men because of our skin color or because of what our culture has been through. Now, one thing that I also wanted to point out in the documentary and did more so towards the end is the way that our resistance towards this racist masculine thing has built up and informed so many of our art forms. Like when you look at the ways that we address certain issues in hip hop, and if you even look at the inception of hip hop and how hip hop began, it was a form of resistance. And when you look throughout history, the way that Black men have consistently had to resist things, it's interesting the way that informs our art form. Then I even mentioned in turn how people wind up admiring the ways that we do these things, and you see people copy it. Like you got your people like Eminem, you got your, I mean, I could go on and on and on about the people who do these sorts of things, but when you look at even in fashion, you see people wanting to duplicate this very hard up image that we've sort of created through our resistance. So that was one thing that I was very shocked about, how it was so closely related to racism.
But I'm proud of you, son. I mean, you seem to be setting an example for a lot of young folks, and that's what we need, more young men to set the example and to try to deprogram some of our millennials and reprogram us to, I won't say us because I'm nowhere near a millennial, but reprogram us to try to succeed in life.
You're only 35, Ian. You're only 35.
Tell the bone.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting thing because myself when I was younger and how I would try to take any sorts of hints of a switch out of my walk.
You're definitely doing it in the 35.
And I remember my sister said something to me like, "Yeah, my friend, why your brother walk like he got a stick up his butt?" And it was just like I just didn't want to appear like I was doing too much, And then it became a thing as I got older. I'm like, listen, I can't sit up here and just worried about what you think about me by the way that I walk. I walk, our hips are meant to move a certain way when we walk, and walking like this is just not natural, And I realized that as I came into accepting my own, and used to see that those T-shirts, "Real men wear black" or "Real men whatever," and I went and bought this pink blazer wear for an event, and I was like, you know what? Real men wear whatever the hell they want to. Period. Point blank. And I'm not worried about what you think about what that is, And it's like, this is it. And so I see guys like Jason Momoa, who is like going out with his long hair, and he wears his hair in pigtails and everything. Because he's like, I know who I am. I'm not worried if you guys think that it's silly or girlish or gay or whatever the hell. It's like, I know who I am. You see, I'm with Lisa Bonet. Come on. And The Rock, same thing. The Rock has this great sense of humor. He has no problem with smiling and laughing and having and enjoying his life. And it's like these guys are kind of showing you what real masculinity is. It isn't this put upon act that you do, that this hardness, that this whole, I had to go to prison, yes, in prison, yes, you may have to be a certain way. Out there in the streets, when you were out doing your dirt, yes, you may have to be a certain way. But when you are with friends and family, let that nonsense go. You don't have to do that here. When we're hanging out with each other, you ain't got to be hard for me to be like, all right, you a man, dude. I'm assuming that you are no longer a teenager. You're grown up to an adulthood. You got some hair on your balls. You're a man. Stop all this other nonsense. Yeah, I said it.
If you think about it now, back in the slavery days, let's go back to the slavery days. The white owners will try to emasculate men. Let's talk about white versus black. And this has been a traditional thing that we took from back then and pass it on to our kids. Because, they tried to emasculate us back then because they wanted us to feel less than. And we feel that, okay, because some of the white slave owners raped men, made them take off their clothes and walk around. Every little aspect that we think that a man shouldn't do, they was trying to bring us down. And we passed that from generation to generation. So we just need to break the generation, like you say, quit thinking that we can't put like fingernail polish. Another thing, if I go and get a manicure or pedicure, my family, you got clear nail polish on. What I got to do with it? I'm still a man. I still stand up and use the restroom and stuff like that. So we need to quit all these little innuendos or little small things that we look at and say, okay, you can't be a man if you do A, B, and C, because that's not the case.
Can I interject a funny point? Just that's kind of not humor, but it's kind of another thought pattern when you just said that. It's so funny that and you mentioned it about the restroom. And for those that I'm just gonna get great. So the emphasis a man has to stand up. Why does a man have to stand up when you do number two, you sit down? You don't stand up to do number two. You know what I'm saying? So, but we say to young boys that it's not man for you to be able to sit down and use the restroom. You know what I'm saying? But you got to do it when you do number two. So if you're tired, don't want to stand up, sit down and pee. Okay.
I'm the first one to admit. Man, I don't care. I'll be the first one to admit. Look, I'm a man. I know who I am. Hey, late at night, 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning, when I ain't trying to turn on the light, I'm sitting down on the toilet to pee. I'm not standing up to try. I'm sitting down to pee, and I'm getting up and go back to the bed. So
back to bed, right?
It's out there.
But this is a thing that has been infected in society. I mean, because I think about it, and I'm not trying to put the urinal business out of business, but what is necessarily the purpose of a urinal? You know what I'm saying? And then you have the thing, well, women feel like, if you think, but what is the real purpose? Because you're at home, you don't have a urinal. You stand up and pee, or you sit down and pee. At the end of the day, whatever. Where'd you get, Parnell?
In my dream home, I'm going to have a urinal.
Okay.
A urinal over here. That's like, sometimes I just got to pee.
Okay.
Some still don't aim right.
Right, I know, right?
Some still don't aim right, even with the light on.
I saw it. This. I know. Hold that topic. There's this contest that happens in Denver called the Parade of Homes.
Yes.
And there was this master bathroom that had a urinal on one side, and then the little water closet for the toilet. And I'm like, that's genius, because you got to go to the bathroom at the same time.
well, one thing while we're talking about this, and then we'll get back into ourselves. This was just a light moment. But one thing I think that they need to do, and a lot of these small companies are doing, where they do it in Europe, especially Paris and all these other places, they need to start putting bidets in bathrooms. Okay, I mean, at the end of the day, but most people in America don't even know what a bidet is. Or the purpose of a bidet, but a lot of them need to use a bidet.
Sometimes that's the only time some people wash their ass, so they might.
See, you said what I wasn't gonna say, but it's just so true. nowadays, I mean, it is. And if you're building a new home, a larger home, your contractor does ask, would you like a bidet in your in your master bedroom suite now? So which is good, But it's just the thought that being out there, and you mention it to a lot of people, and they're like, oh, really? Yeah. Because anyway, that's not good. That's a whole nother subject.
But it cuts down on paper too.
Well, yeah,
that cuts down on a lot of paper. A lot of trees would be saved if we did have that. But, some people don't get it. So, I mean, I don't understand why they don't.
That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation.
But anyway, I just wanted to, kind of throw that in there because you were talking about mentioning using the restroom. I thought it was kind of neat because it's like, that's one of the problems that we find that young men are told, at the end of the day. And it just doesn't make sense.
One of the funniest things while we was talking about this, I was looking at Tyler's face, and that was hilarious. He was looking like, what the hell is that?
But I'm really humored by it because it's something I never thought about. It just reminds me of how over time men have literally come up with things to assert dominance. Yes. There is no biological or scientific data that says, first of all, that men need to stand up to pee.
Right. Exactly.
There is literally no benefit of urinals existing.
Right. True.
Because usually a men's bathroom is set up this way. On the back end, you have the regular toilets.
Right.
Missing for number 2.
Right.
Right. And you got the urinals. Right. Imagine if you just had regular toilets lined on both sides.
Absolutely.
What is the purpose? Like, I'm just now thinking about it. Right. There really is no purpose other than to be able to say, I stand when I
pee. Right, exactly. It really absolutely serves no solid no purpose at all. And when you think about it, the conversation rolled over because I was thinking earlier in the week. I said I'm going to bring this up, in conversation. But it is true. I mean, you could save money, you could save time, and then at the end of the day, if it's a small bathroom, you come and try to do number 2, and it's already locked up. And what are you going to do? You're gonna pee in hole? What? I don't know.
He is like JB Moore. Look at DD. He's like look at DD.
But anyway, moving on. Okay.
There's a lot to dissect.
It is a lot to dissect. I'm telling you.
Well, I have to laugh. Wait, because there was a post that somebody had on social media a while back that this dude was talking about. When he takes a shower, he's like, I don't really get back there and scrub, because
I remember that.
I just let the water run down, and everybody's like, "You wash your ass? You
I always, but hold on. But see, my thing is, what woman would want to sleep with that? Well, that's my issue with that. It's like, why would I've asked a lot of my women friends, what is the point of your man not wiping himself or cleaning himself thoroughly? What do you get out of that? That I just never quite understood that.
Well, the funny thing about that is that when that post came, but I did see that part when that post came, and they mentioned that that meant that he was a gay man if he washed his ass. Wow. So if you don't want your man to be gay, then he can't wash his ass.
He can't wash his ass right.
Really?
So to be stinky is to be masculine.
Okay. Right.
You just kind of rinse it. You don't really scrub.
You don't rinse it.
Let it go.
This conversation is going.
It's crazy because even Will Smith's sexuality was called out because he said he used wet wipes.
Right. And everybody should use wipes.
And that was one of the things that kind of got me like, what does that have to do with his sexuality? He just likes to be early.
What is hygiene? Yeah.
Right. Right. But
I don't know.
Honestly, which is good. We're gonna move on. I know this is good, but this is part of what I think really needs to get out there. So it's in the mix of what we needed to talk about because it's always downloaded. But I will say this,
you think what need to get out there is us wiping our ass. That's part of what. That's part of no.
Well, okay. Kudos, and we'll wrap it up with this. Kudos to the commercial. I mean, and the toilet paper company that has really brought out the emphasis of buying wipes and things like that because it has helped America become more fresh. Okay.
I'm sorry.
But anyway, but back. Okay, so back into where we were about this. But no, but I mean, I think the humor was good about this because there are some very strong points that we brought about it, and so men can actually start thinking about those things that necessarily they don't. At the end of the day, as we're going forward. And I apologize, we had to drop. We had signal connections, guys. So we had to drop out. I missed a little bit of where you were with everything, Tyler. I know, Ian. Thank you guys for keeping the flow going when we faded out there. So I guess in a point of bringing to a little bit of a close about toxic masculinity, what is your encouragement to these men, out there? And like Ian said earlier, you'll probably be around maybe to see some of this. Most of us will probably be on the other side when it starts to happen. But but what is your takeaway for that?
Well, it's sort of two things that I think should take place, and I think will take place eventually. Is that someone already said it, several of you actually said it, where there needs to be this owning of oneself. But in addition to owning oneself, we need to just go ahead and own and accept. And I would even offer that we should invite all of the negative effects of what has happened. We need to go ahead and just be present with that. And part of that, yes, is having the conversations. But some of it is just accepting the truth of who we are and what we have done and the damage that has been caused by way of toxic masculinity. Because before any healing can take place, the acknowledgement has to set in. That's the first thing. The second thing is, and I mentioned it a little bit before, there needs to be sort of a reimagining of what our current idea of masculinity is in a lot of aspects, because I even offer at the end of my investigation that so much of what we've created based on how we translate masculinity, especially as Black men, has created so many art forms and aesthetics and just cool stuff that we've developed over time. Yeah. So some of that stuff has served us in a lot of ways. But I think part of being able to capitalize on the ways in which our masculine translation has served us is to have these kinds of conversations and be a little bit more open about it and just kind of, do what we're kind of doing right now, sitting back, slapping five, cackling and cracking jokes on something that we really rarely address, making it a part of the conversation, being present with it, and really looking at the ways that it serves us and the ways that it is reductive. And then capitalizing on how it serves us.
Gotcha. Makes perfect sense. I love that. Great scenario. Do you have a point, anything you want to drop on that real quick?
I think Tyler's pretty much said it all. And, I want to add the title of the show, The Will to Change. You have to have the will to change. The will to get rid of some of the old things that's in your mind and be able to accept some of the new. And until we get to that point, we're going to be stuck right where we at. And I think that society will get there. We won't be here, but I think it will get there.
Gotcha. Harold, did you have a point on that?
Well, for me, as I've gotten older, as I've crossed over to my fifth decade, one of the things that for me, what I define as being masculine is just having the courage to be who you are. Not feeling the need to prove or defend yourself. I think that is exhausting. I think most of us, for most of our lives, we feel like we have to defend or prove ourselves. And that is exhausting. And it keeps you from being who you really are. It keeps you from being your best self if you are constantly in this mode of trying to prove who you are. But to have the courage to be yourself, whatever that is. If you got a little switch or, whatever it is, just to have, to me, that's being a man.
Right. Exactly.
That's true.
Embracing yourself. Totally embracing. One of the points, now I'll let you drive your point, just second part out. One of the things, I had a conversation the other day with a gentleman that came in my store, and we were talking. He was from Detroit, and we connected and never met the guy before. At the end of the day, but one of the things that I realized that I live my position. Most of you guys know me that know that is I try to live in a position of transparency. Okay. And when you're in a place of transparency, you are at a place where you're open and you're always ready to receive that conversation. So I would encourage, men that are listening, work on being transparent. Okay. Because transparency automatically allows you to fall into the position of love. You kind of gravitate to the need. at that particular point in time. So if you find a guy that's walking down the street that's looking frowning, whatever, and then maybe you'll in your transparency, something will draw out of him into the words that you need to say to him. So transparency is a good place to be. Go ahead, Parnell. I know you had it.
I think some of it also is just trying to eliminate these, or I shouldn't say limit what fields men get into. Yeah. There are a lot of guys who are into dance, who are into the arts, who are into flowers and doing hair and all that good stuff. And they do, that's just a gay thing. I'm like, okay, a lot, but there are also a lot of very straight male dancers who get it like, listen, I'm around girls in tights and I'm lifting them up all the time. Right. Uh-huh. So they're into that. And they're guys who just like, I like making women feel beautiful, but they also like sleeping with women. So kind of like letting guys know, like, you don't always have to be the jock who's working on cars. There are a lot of 100% heterosexual men who enjoy working with flowers, who enjoy doing who are nurses. There are a lot of nurses out there, as we kind of started redefining gender roles, that is women, it's not just women only do this, men only do this. Like, what is calling you to do this job? Right. Are you a person who likes to care for people? Then yes, go into nursing or go into being a doctor, whatever the case that may be, be a caretaker. If you're a person who likes to make people feel beautiful, yes, go and become a decorator or a hairstylist or a fashion designer, whatever that case may be. Right. I still feel that doesn't make you masculine. Right. And
I had the pleasure, then we're going to go into our Black History topic real quick. I'll say pleasure, today, one of the guests that I had at my store. And speaking of a male that has operated in complete toxicity in terms of his behaviors and stuff like that, he's been divorced like 2 or 3 times, whatever. So I find out his life story. But here's the thing, and just cutting it short. So I was trying to help him make a selection on something he was purchasing for his home. So he kept going into this male-female relationship situation, or the female knows how to do this, do that. I said, let me make you a correction here. I said, I have a background in interior design. So me explaining to you or coordinating your home has nothing to do with me being a male or a female doing it, okay? Because I tell her that there's a lot of females come to my store have hideous ideas in terms of decorating. Okay, so and I told him that. I said some women can't put a room together, So let's to him, let's be encouraging about what we are, and that don't let nobody bring you down because of your skills and your time, because they're all gifts from your creator. There are all different ways that you can make money, and why let somebody stop you from being as successful in something that you really want to be successful in? You know what I mean? But anyway, we're gonna wrap this portion up, and guys, I want to say this real quick. We'll talk about this. I hope, and we would love to have you back next week to wrap this up. Tyler, are you back free next week? You are? Okay. So we're gonna wrap it up. With Men and Voices 2 next week. We're gonna emphasize on what has the church done to males in terms of their masculinity. Okay. So we will lead that, and then that's going to lead into our next show coming up, which is really, really going to be good. The PSD of the church, or PSD of religion. Okay, so we want to set some people free, y'all. Okay, but free in the right way. All right, so now we're going to get into talking about our Black History moment before we close the show tonight. This individual has, I think, no one in the musical industry will ever at this point, I think we'll all be on the other side before it happens, will surpass his accomplishment from childhood to adulthood. The only sad part about it is that, there was not enough right influence around him to guide him as in adulthood to help him embrace the same things that we're talking about right now. Because if he really truly believed in himself, not in so much in the talent, but believed in himself, and then was affirmed, within himself. I don't think that necessarily the cosmetic adjustments that would have, that happened would have happened for him, because he would have been told, you look great as you are. You know what I'm saying? Embrace who you are as that particular person. And I think that probably would have helped him to be even greater than he already was. Even though he I think because of his spirit and his love for humanity, it transcends to so much and reach so many people around the world, that they, at the end of his, the part of his life, they accepted him for who he was. And, you had to see him in a transparent form to be able to accept what he looked like. And from where he came, So as a point, speaking of Michael Jackson as our Black History moment, okay? And what it is, I think we have some pictures of him that'll be coming up in just a second, but I just want to hear you guys and celebrating what Michael Jackson meant to you and, and from that particular point. Anyone can start, doesn't matter.
Okay, y'all waited too long. Well, you mean, as a kid growing up, I used to have dreams of performing with the Jacksons.
Yes.
On stage and everything, and he was the epitome of a male performer who just really conquered this entertainment industry. That, like, when he took the stage, it was like magic,
Right.
So we have to give it to him. And I agree. I wish he would have had some counseling or whatever to really accept the Michael before all the changes started happening. Whatever was going on there. I wish he'd have been able to get that and still been here with us.
Right. I got you. Harold, do you have a point?
Oh, man. Look, you're talking about, I'm the #1 Michael Jackson fan, a Jackson 5 fan, and all of that. And I just remember when Thriller came out, I must have been a teenager and just waiting up all night for MTV to release the video. So,
yes.
Whoa, what an amazing talent. And it's so interesting how it seems like some of the folks that go through or have the most pain also display so much power,
right,
and are able to impact us in such a deep and profound way. We benefit from their pain.
Right. Ian, German?
Michael Jackson was one of my favorite entertainers.
Yes.
I can recall in school, and since we talk about masculinity, I can recall in school a bunch of us masculine guys have had a conversation. If you could sleep with one man, would it be Michael Jackson or Prince?
Wow.
And that was the conversation that we've heard a lot. Michael Jackson, I think someone said earlier about BU. Michael Jackson, father was one who was very stern and tried to teach him what he learned, how to be a man. Because if you think about his story, Michael used to cry and he was very soft. He used to have a boyfriend, and his father was masculine. And Michael, he been him. It doesn't matter what people thought, how he looked, or the long hair, or he's trying to change his appearance. He didn't care about that. He been him.
Right.
And despite the stereotypical conversation that was in the street about who he were, he was comfortable. And it's all about being comfortable in your own skin and who you are.
Right. Got you. Tyler?
Growing up, Michael Jackson was somebody that I always felt like if I could not do what he did, then I'll not get anywhere. It was singing,
like that.
dancing, and
wow.
I just remember thinking, and I remember, and it wasn't even like the present him; it was the child Michael Jackson. So I remember being like, I got to be able to dance like that. I got to be able to sing like that because that's going to be my competition one day. I got to get like that. And those are my earliest memories of him, and it's just so interesting that having that memory of him and now tying that into this theory that I have about masculinity and how there is not one masculinity. Clearly there's several types, because the way he presented himself and all the backlash he got didn't stop women from being attracted to him.
Absolutely.
That's true.
Absolutely.
That's true.
Absolutely. You have one?
Oh, and I said this earlier, he, to be honest with you, going through my, growing up phase and, to be a Michael Jackson fan in high school wasn't the most popular thing at that point in time. He was going through so much, but I want to say, I was always a fan from the day I can recall listening to music. He was the first. Right. He was the absolute first artist besides, and there were other artists that we listened to, but Michael was constant in our house. And, and it took me a while to figure out that he was Black. Now, honestly, I always thought he was white, but to be honest with you, it didn't even matter. Right. Because somebody said when you hear positive vibes, you seem to go for that, and you seem to forget about everything else. Right. And he brought a positive message to music. Right. He was just one of the greatest to be honest with you, all around entertainers. And I want to also mention this, he was also the pettiest too. Let me tell you a story. Y'all remember this song called Centipede? Rebe Jackson, he written that song for Rebe Jackson, his oldest sister, called Centipede. Now, for years, I used to listen to that song all the way through and thought, oh, Rebe can sing. Because she is a moment in the song that there's this gospel, soulful voice at the end. Do you know he put Martha Wash at the end of that song?
Wow. I didn't realize. You mentioned that to me.
Rebe Jackson, listen to Centipede whenever you get a chance. Centipede is Rebe Jackson's song, but at the end of the song, Martha Wash is singing the soulful ad-libs, which will make you think it was Rebe Jackson. Wow. And I kept saying, now why would a brother, why would your own brother do you like that? And the student. I said, Michael, you're petty. You're a petty brother at the end of the day, because you knew Rebe couldn't sing like that and had the whole entire world thinking Rebe can sing. Rebe wasn't singing, it was Martha Wash singing.
Well, and you strike a very good point
about
him.
Petty. He was a petty brother.
Right. Well, but here's the thing. One of the things that I admired about him so much is that the quality of what he sought and what he did.
Yes, he did.
You know what I'm saying? So even when he was producing that, that particular song
Centipede.
for Rebe, he realized that she couldn't carry the narrative to get it popular. So you had to bring it popular. She
was a whisper-tearing like Janet. They all have that whisper-tearing. but here's the thing. One of the things that I loved about his final efforts was on This Is It. And I'm sure everybody, you guys that have watched the show have. Hopefully you have seen it. If you hadn't, go back and seen it. It really displayed a side of him that we never saw. You know what I'm saying? In terms of the creativity, in terms of his mastering, in terms of what he wanted to see happen in music. And for him to stand there, with his music directors and hear things that they didn't even hear, and chords that they didn't even hear. Mm-hmm. And you can imagine how it was working with him when he was with Quincy and, all through the years and the sound developments that they came about that we now have all grown to love, I mean, just an amazing artist. And I think from there will never be, like I started our conversation on, they try to compare him with Elvis. Elvis could never, ever touch the accomplishments of Michael Jackson. Elvis wasn't the only difference is Elvis had is because he became a film star. That was the only biggest difference. But reaching the masses in the world and a continuous, and still to this day, Michael Jackson has outsold whatever Elvis was attempting to do. When Elvis died, most of us probably remember when Elvis died, but his record sales didn't shoot to the top. Michael has sold more albums from the grave than most people have sold on regular life, because he sold another billion. Thriller went back to number one, and stayed number one for like another 12 weeks or so after he died, or during the time that he died, So I hate to say transition, But anyway, so any closing remarks? We got to wrap up our show today. Any closing remarks about anything, guys? You want to share real quick? Anybody? Ooh, no heads? What? Okay. All right, guys. Well, we thank you for tuning in to Truth Behind the Truth tonight. Again, once again, it has been another awesome show. We really hope that, you take this message and send it to your sons and daughters, the females that are watching. Your daughters need to watch this particular show so she knows how to deal with a man. Make sure your sons watch it. Make sure your husbands watch it. Single men, make sure you watch this show. Go back and see the 4 other shows. They have been extremely powerful and really helping you to move forward in your life. At the end of next week, we'll be wrapping it up, okay? And what it's going to be is the influence that the church has had among male influence and how we see, ourselves in that capacity. All right, guys, thank you so much. Hey, we'll be right back. We will be back next week. Well, hey, Ian's back, Tyler's back. This is going to be a good show. And I think Sean will be with us next week. So this is going to be even a greater show next week as we wrap this up, and come to the conclusion. We move on to the next set. All right, love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Tuning in to where? The truth behind the truth. Have a great night, guys. Bye.
Peace.